So in non-destructive techniques, we are going to learn about different entity methods that we will be following uh, in the maintenance of bridge structures exclusively. Okay. So normally entity methods can be used for any structures. Okay. So whether it may be constructed with civil engineering materials, or it may be for mechanical structures, or whatever it is, the NDT method shall be commonly applied for any type of structure. Well, so we will be studying about different types of entity techniques in Unit 3. So in this particular session, I will be concentrating and I will be explaining to you about very basic entity methods like rebound hammer and ultrasonic pulse velocity method. Okay, so we do have different types of NDT methods as well. So that also we will be learning as per our curriculum. Right. So well, non-destructive techniques. So as I said, so whatever the topics that you are going to learn, okay, it may be of assessment, it may be of bridge maintenance introduction, the reliability methods that we will be using for bridge maintenance, assessment and evaluation purposes. So whatever topics we learn or whatever things we learn, we need to get exposed to more of experimental part. So you should be strong in practical as well, and that is where you can develop the common sense in assessing the situations in case of any failure or in case of maintenance requirements. Okay, so field knowledge is more important. So this theoretical knowledge you should understand, you should develop a sense of understanding where you should know that in which situation this can be applied, and what is the need of studying this particular topic, and how does it going to help me to enhance my career or enhance my structural engineering professionalism. So only then, only if you feed such kind of thoughts into you, you can actually understand how you can actually work out. Okay, so coming to NDT, NDT is commonly applicable for any type of structures you take. Okay, so any type of structure. So we are going to learn in the same techniques what you have learned in NDT, but exclusively for bridges. So we all know NDT is non-destructive technique, which refers to an array of inspection methods. Okay, so a matrix of inspection methods that actually allow the engineers or structural inspectors to evaluate and collect data about a particular material, what it is made of, the system of materials or system of structural members, or the component without or the component. And the main objective is you are not going to alter any of the structural configurations or systems. That is the main objective of NDT. And NDT do have other names as well. Okay, so this you can use it for your MCQs. So NDT can also be called as NDE or NDI. Okay, so NDE means non-destructive examination or non-destructive evaluation. So whereas NDI means non-destructive inspection. Okay, so NDT can also be termed as NDE or NDI. Okay, so non-destructive techniques can also be called as non-destructive examination or non-destructive evaluation or non-destructive inspection. So these are the various terms for NDT. Actually, in the field, NDT is often used as an umbrella term. That means under the NDT you have so much of mechanisms that you need to follow for each and different type of structures. You need to follow different types of NDT methods. Fine. For corrosion, you have to use different method. For deterioration of concrete structures, you are going to use different methods to understand the strength of materials. Okay, so NDT is actually a common umbrella term that is used to refer any non-destructive inspection methods. Okay, the inspection tools or even the entire field of non-destructive inspection is based upon the particular method that you are going to choose for your maintenance. Right? In terms of commercial applications, okay, the goal of NDT is to ensure that critical infrastructure, in our case, it is bridge structure. So whether the critical infrastructure is properly maintained in order to avoid any catastrophic accident. So that is the main purpose of a maintenance of structure. So the maintenance of structure objective is to prevent any failure. Okay. So NDT technique is one of the tool that helps us to maintain the structure in order to avoid any catastrophic accidents. Fine. So while NDT methods are well typically associated with industrial use cases like inspecting weak points in a boiler that are used in petroleum industry or oil refinery, and uses in medicine are actually some of the most common. Okay, so for example, x-rays to understand any fracture in the bones. Okay, so that is actually one of the easiest NDT method that you can take for your example. And another example you can take, an expecting mother getting an ultrasound to check on the health of her baby would be considered as one of the NDT use case. Okay, so the growth of baby in the mother's womb. So that is also one of the NDT techniques where you are using your ultrasound methods to understand the growth of the baby. Right? And MRI is also again one of NDT methods. So NDT have huge applications. Okay, so but it is very important to know that NDT does not necessarily require the use of special tools or any tools at all. Okay, for instance, when a structural engineer or any industrial inspector in industries review the outside of a pressure vessel with their naked eyes, so that would fall under NDT designation as well. Okay, so NDT overall, so non-destructive. So that means without altering the system configuration or structural components. Okay, so whatever you do, even a visual inspection, that is also comes under NDT designations. Okay, so because you are collecting data on status of a particular boiler or pressure vessel without damaging it. Okay, so in bridge you go and you take note of the various deterioration of methods like corrosion, effects of score, and spanning of concrete. So you are not going to disturb the structure, and you take note of all the records, you collect the data. So that is also an NDT method. Okay, on the other hand, using a sophisticated tool like ultrasonic sensor or rebound hammer to look for defects in a certain material or asset, that would also be called as NDT. Okay, so these are the various points that you should remember for NDT. Fine. And non-destructive techniques. So the objectives is know different types of NDT, and you should be able to assess the strength and the quality of a concrete. Not only concrete, even in steel, you can find out whether the strength of the building is soundful or not, and able to assess corrosion in reinforcement, able to map the reinforcement where the reinforcement lies, at what distances, at what locations, what is the depth of the reinforcement. That can also be understood with NDT method. So it will also help you to able to understand, to check crack size and its growth. And you can also find carbonation depth and dye penetration test. You can do dye penetration test as well as magnetic particle test. Okay, existing bridge inspection system not adequate to identify internal defects. So the objective of inspection of bridges is need of power, right? So bridge, as I said, bridges are very critical infrastructure that helps maintain the economical status of a nation, just like your dams. Okay, so the catastrophe of a dams or any failure of dams will definitely lead to a major collapse or a major setback for economy of a country. So similarly, the bridges also lies in the same principle. Okay, so because bridges are mainly used for logistics transportation between different cities. Okay, so for example, Chennai to Bangalore, Chennai to Hyderabad, Mumbai to Delhi, Mumbai to Pune. So these are the areas where a consistent amount of logistics movement takes place. Fine. So when any failure in such routes, industrial routes, so that will definitely lead to setback of your economy as well. Okay, so that is why the bridge maintenance is actually need of the hour. Well, in the first uh, previous presentations as well, we have studied about. I told you about. I have taken major points from Indian Railway Bridge Manual, so that I have given some of the points to you as well. So the IRBM prescribes periodical health monitoring of very important bridges by an independent agency for corrosion monitoring, deterioration of material, system damage, retrofitting, etc. Okay, so this is what the IRBM recommends, and why I also explained you why I have taken Indian Railways as an example, considering Indian scenario, because in Indian Railways do handle more volume of traffic as well as do have more bridges under its purview. Okay, so Indian Railway consists of almost greater than almost 1.27 lakh bridges spread over large geographical area. And why we require to why we speak about the maintenance structures is because many of these structures are weak and distressed conditions. For example, 57% of bridges are over 80 years old, and 40% of bridges are almost 100 years old and have completed their codal life. So normally the codal life will be designed considering as 99 years, right? So these are the statistical data that you require, so you can understand. So the maintenance of structures. So if you concentrate more on different maintenance techniques and maintenance strategies, you can actually move your career into that particular area as also. Okay, and an automated system to track bridges health is of utmost importance. And this is this particular thing. Okay, the long-term monitoring. The long-term monitoring of automated system to track bridge is what we will be learning in structural health monitoring. In structural health monitoring, we'll be using various types of sensors to understand whether the bridge is undergoing additional load beyond its actual design load, whether the bridge structure is facing any corrosion, any scar effects, or what is the flood levels in the particular bridge is facing. Okay, so based upon the sensors, we will monitoring the long term uh, of the bridge maintenance. Okay, so in short term, okay, so that is where your entity techniques will be used. Okay, so short term monitoring. Okay, so the various measurable parameters. Okay, so what are the various measurable parameters that I can use my entity to know the absorption, brittleness, color, density, the dielectric characteristic, ductility, elasticity, electrical conductivity, frequency, the mass, plasticity, pressure, velocity, viscosity. So these are the different parameters that you can actually find out in your NDT techniques. Okay. So normally we have studied that we can check only for density or ductility, or what is the mass, the permeability, and electrical conductivity. So apart from that, so these are the different parameters which you can actually study in NDT techniques. Okay. So you have indirect correlation and like strength. You have direct measurement like elasticity, hardness, and density. And for density, you have ultrasonic velocity. And for corrosion, you have measurement like electrical potential or resistance. And for crack, you can go and apply with magnetic field or flux. Fine. And these are the different NDT methods: rebound hammer, ultrasonic pulse velocity, corrosion assessment of reinforcing steel, mapping of reinforcing steel, crack size and its growth, carbonation depth, dye penetration test, magnetic particle test. So, well, you should also know what is the major difference on destructive versus non-destructive testing method. Okay, because before we go further, I I have the responsibility to clarify you that there are some methods used to test materials that alter or even damage and destroy the materials tested. Okay, the use of these methods, which is going to alter the structural configuration or system component, is called as destructive testing. Okay, so in destructive testing, a piece of material might be scrapped away for analysis or altered in some way on site. The best example is your compression testing machine, where you will be testing your cube samples. Okay, and some of the other examples like macro sectioning. Okay, I'm not sure whether you heard about this term. Macro sectioning is we'll be using to test a small section of welded material by polishing and etching it for examination. Okay, so macro sectioning is used to understand how soundful or how strong the particular building is. Another example you can take as tensile testing, so also called tension testing. This is a destructive technique that uses controlled tension, okay, which can be applied to a sample material to see how it reacts. The tension could be applied to certain loads or condition or to test a material failure point. Okay, so similar to your compression testing machine, we do have tensile testing machine as well. And then we have 3-point bending test. Exclusively in structural engineering, we'll be using to uh, make a prototype of a beam and you can test it. So the 3-point bending testing examines the soundness and flexibility of a material or even ductility of a material by taking a sample of it. Okay. So normally we call it as a coupon. So prototype testing will be termed as coupon, and bending it in 3 different points to a specific angle. Okay, so these are the different destructive testing techniques that we are following. Okay, and there are so much of different testing also available. For example, you have aggressive environment testing and corrosion testing, okay, fracture and mechanical testing, fatigue testing, and some more examples like hydrogen testing and residual stress measurements. So in field, normally you have the best example I can give you is in structural engineering, you take a compression testing or a tensile testing. Okay, and we do have follow different codal provisions, right? So similarly for entity also we do have some standards as well as codes, because so the code and the manual of entity prescribes. So how do you infer the results? Okay. So in any maintenance or in any understanding, any assessment, evaluation patterns, or any reliability methods you are going to use, even your beam design or beam analysis, right? You should have the knowledge of inference. Okay. So for example, in StatPro, you are going to design a 3-story building. So in that scenario, the 3-story building will, the StatPro will get you the analysis results and design results as well. But the thing is, even an 8th standard student or 10th standard student who have a very good common sense or English knowledge can work on the StatPro software, isn't it? So as a structural engineering graduate, you should develop yourself the what is the inference. How do you infer whether this particular structure, the results you have got, is valid or not? Whether this is applicable or do I need to change any minor modifications or not? So this inference is where you are distinguished from a common man and to a professional structural engineer. Fine. And why do we use NDT? Okay, so there are 4 important points that I wanted to tell you. So those are savings, safety, efficiency, and accuracy. Okay, so normally acronym I use it SC. Okay, SC, SSEA. So savings, safety, efficiency, and accuracy. Okay, savings. The most obvious answer to this question is that entity is more appealing than destructive testing because it allows the material or object being examined to survive the examination unharmed. So that means what happens? You are going to save enormous amount of money and resources. And once the structure gets constructed, finished constructing, and at that point you are not going to take samples, core cutting. So you're not going to cut a particular concrete specimen and take it for testing, because that is time consuming, as well as it required more skilled labor, and it required more amount of money that you are going to invest. So first point is saving. Second is safety. NDT is also appealing because almost all the NDT techniques are harmless to people except one technique, that is radiographic testing. Your X-ray, your MRIs. Okay, so those kind of radiographic testings are quite harmful. So apart from those testing, all the testings that you are going to apply are very safe in nature. Okay, and then efficiency, how efficient your NDT method. So NDT methods allow for the thorough and relatively quick evaluation of assets, which can be crucial for ensuring continued safety and performance on a job site. So wherever you are assigned for maintenance of a particular structure or bridge, so in that scenario, you have very good data collection and very good inference of data. So it have very good efficiency. So finally, accuracy. NDT methods have been proven accurate and predictable, both qualities you want, right? So when it comes to maintenance procedures that are meant to ensure the safety of personnel and longevity of the equipment, you go for NDT methods. And NDT methods normally are very predictable and accurate. So this is primarily, these two qualities are very important when you go for any maintenance. Right? Okay, so that is why we are using NDT methods in our structural. And as I said, so we will be studying about different NDT methods. Fine. So the first and foremost method is, apart from these different methods, rebound or UPV or magnetic dye penetration, carbonation depth, the first and foremost uh, tool that any human, especially people with structural engineering knowledge, can have is visual testing or visual inspection. Okay, you are going to a site and you are going to make a visual inspection. Okay, so visual non-destructive technique is act of collecting visual data on the status of a material or structure. Visual testing is most and foremost basic way to examine a material or object without altering it in any way. And how we are going to conduct your visual testing? Visual testing can be conducted with the naked eye by the structural engineers or structural inspectors visually reviewing a material or asset. Okay, that is the bridge structures or any structures, you name it. Okay, for indoor visual testing, the structural engineers will use flashlights to add depth to the object being examined. Okay, and sometimes we use UV lights. Okay, to understand whether the penetration of cracks as well. And visual techniques can also be done with any of the remote visual inspection tool, like cameras. Okay, you go to a site and you take photos and come to your office room and you can check, zoom in and check out what is the accuracy of that. Okay, and to get the camera in place, entity engineers may use a robot, or sometimes even today people have started using drones. Okay, so these are the visual techniques, and visual techniques is the foremost basic method of your NDT method. Okay, so strength assessment. Normally, we use entity for strength assessment, and in strength assessment, the first point is rebound hammer. Okay, so the rebound hammer is, it is very handy. Of course, it is a portable mechanical equipment, not requiring any consumables. You are not going to use any consumables, right? So it consists of spring-controlled mass that slides on a plunger with a tubular housing. When the plunger is pressed against the surface of the concrete, the spring controlled mass rebounds. Right? The extent of rebound depends upon the surface hardness of the concrete, which is related to directly related to compressive strength of concrete. So the rebound hammer, the surface to be tested should be dry, smooth, and clean. So normally we use sandpaper to clean the surfaces. Okay. So because you need to get more accurate results. Fine. So we use we suppose if you find any deteriorated area of concrete or any spallings of concrete. So in that scenario, you will touch up. That means you will remove it and use sandpaper to make the surface quite clean. The point of impact should be at least 20 mm away from any edge or shape discontinuity. Okay, if there are any discontinuity or any large cracks, okay, so from that point it should be at least 20 mm away, okay, to get accurate results. And the equipment, the rebound hammer is the equipment that they're going to use. So that equipment should be held at right angles to the surface of the concrete member. Okay. So exactly you are to going to clean the surface and you have to make it more perpendicular. So at the right angles you should be kept. So this is the very important point that you must understand when you perform any rebound hammer testing. So this is how you have to hold your equipment. Okay, so it should be right angle to the surface of your any testing material that you are going to use. So most probably we will be using it for concrete testing to understand the strength. Okay, NDT rebound hammer, especially a rebound hammer, do have some limitations, like it gives strength of concrete at surface area only. Suppose if the depth of the concrete is 1 meter, so you are going to analyze it for a beam which have a depth of 1 meter, or column which have a column size of 1 meter. So in that scenario, what is the core strength? So that will be quite difficult for us using rebound hammer. So the rebound hammer gives strength of concrete at surface only. On carbonated concrete surface, results will not be quite accurate. Internal micro cracking flaws cannot be detected. Okay, internally if there are any micro cracks, so these are the limitations of rebound. Suppose you may have a question, okay sir, in case of micro cracking or flaws, I want to understand whether the reinforcement that I have provided in the beam is very corroded or it is in good condition, or whether the beam the reinforcement that I have provided developed any cracks, okay, or the concrete is vacuum or does not get compacted very good internally. So for that we use different methods. Okay, so rebound hammer should be used to understand the strength of the concrete or material at the surface and up to certain limit of the surface, and definitely not for the core strength. Okay, so that's the limitation of rebound hammer. So the probable accuracy of prediction of concrete strength is plus or minus 25%. And why does uh, the rebound hammer have such limitation? Because rebound hammer may get affected because of different factors like wetness of the surface finish of the concrete. Okay, so that is why in the previous slide I told you that the surface should be very clean and it should be smooth, so that you are going, because if there are any undulations or any small honeycomb like structure, so there you should not or you cannot use your rebound hammer. If you use, it may give results that are greater than plus or minus 40% variation. And remember, you should hold. I also told you the rebound hammer should be a right angle or perpendicular to the concrete surface exactly, and you should not allow any inclination of the rebound hammer. And the type of aggregate, the age of concrete, and carbonation of concrete. So these are the different factors that is going to affect your rebound values. The next one we are going to see in our entity is ultrasonic pulse velocity meter. Okay, so ultrasonic pulse velocity meter is another the best method that we are going to use for understanding the entity. Okay, so the ultrasonic and entity method is the process of transmitting high frequency sound waves into a material in order to identify change in material's property, whether the material property has changed internally. Also you can check with your ultrasonic pulse velocity. Okay, and how do you conduct the ultrasonic pulse velocity is, in general, ultrasonic testing uses sound waves to detect defects or imperfections on the surface of the material created. Okay, one of the most ultrasonic testing methods is the pulse echo. Okay, with this technique, the structural engineers introduce sounds into a material, and the wave will travel into the material and it measures the echoes, or you can also call it as sound reflections. Fine. So the UPV with pulse echo meter, the sound will be introduced into a material and it will measure the echoes or sound reflections produced by imperfections on the surface of the material as they return to a receiver. That is why you have two components like transmitter and receiver. Right? So the velocity of ultrasonic pulse in a material depends upon density and elastic properties. Comparatively higher values of pulse velocity are obtained when concrete quality is quite good. Ultrasonic pulse velocity is produced and transmitted by a transducer held in contact with concrete surface. It travels through a known length in concrete and is received by second transducer, which is called as receiver. Okay. The travel time of pulse is measured by the electronic timing device. Okay. The pulse velocity is directly related with quality of concrete. By combining this equipment along with the rebound hammer, you can actually obtain very good information about elastic modulus and compressive, and thus you can get the compressive strength of concrete. So both UPV and rebound hammer test are very handy and very easy to use. So to assess the strength of the concrete, first you can make different blocks in the particular surface where you are going to make test. So in that surface, first you can use rebound hammer, because just with one equipment you are going to make a test. So with rebound you can calculate all the values and take the result. You can then go for this pulse velocity method. Then you can cross validate the values you have got with the rebound hammer. Okay, so the ultrasonic pulse velocity meter, the natural frequency will have 20 to 150 megahertz. High frequency transducer for short path lines and vice versa. Provision of adequate acoustical coupling between transducer and concrete surface is very important. And the maximum size of aggregate 20 mm, uh, uh, and whose minimum path length will be 100 mm. The maximum size of aggregate when crosses 20 mm, the path length will be 150 mm. Path length means the way in which the sound waves travel. Okay, and different scenarios in which you will be using the ultrasonic pulse velocity. This is very common method that you have already known it, right? So direct transmission is the point in which you place your receiver and transducer in the same line, and semi-direct transmission in two different surfaces, any surfaces. Okay, and indirect or surface transmission means in the same surface you are going to keep both your transducer as well as receiver. Okay. The direct transmission method is always the best method that you have to use. In some scenarios, you can use surface transmission as well, but direct transmission will give more accurate results. Okay. So this test can be conducted in accordance with IS 13311 Part 1 1992. Okay. As I already told you, the NDT methods do have some of the codal provisions and common standard procedures has to be followed. Only then you can actually infer and validate your results. Right? And the methodology that you are going to use, for example, rebound or UPV. So since they both are handy, you can use both the methods in a particular site and you can actually validate your results. Okay? The ultrasonic pulse velocity criteria for concrete quality grading. The pulse velocity probing, if it is above 4.5, the concrete quality is excellent. 3.2, 3.5 to 4.5, good. 3.0 to 3.5, medium. Below 3.0, it's doubtful. The quality of concrete is doubtful. Then even UPV get affected by various factors like moisture content, mix proportion, the temperature of concrete, the degree of coupling between the transducer and receiver, operations of reinforcement, age of concrete, and stress level in concrete. Okay, so coming to degree of coupling, so every equipment, say even if you go for destructive based testing, so whatever you use, all the mechanical equipments requires calibration. When you do not maintain a proper calibration, the results will be quite variable. Okay, that is why we require calibration even for your transducer and receiver that you are using for UPV testing does require some of your calibration. Okay, so only then it will have a very good degree of coupling. Okay, and uh, apart from these techniques, you have different other types of ultrasonic testing also. We call it as phased array ultrasonic testing and automated ultrasonic testing and time of flight diffraction. So these are the different methods we'll be using to understand and measure the strength assessment of different structures. For example, the phased array ultrasonic testing, we call it as PAUT. So it is based upon the same principle. Okay, wherever you use ultrasonic pulse velocity method, you don't bother about what are the different types or different scenarios. Wherever you are going to use, you are going to use only the same kind of physics. That is your conventional ultrasound inspection. Okay, and the differences are mainly the probe technology and the configuration. What you are going to use, the different instrument or electronics that you are going to use. Okay, these methods can be used to understand the building scenario, the beam orientation. Okay, and whether there are any internal fractures. Okay, so that way it can be used. That is your phased array ultrasonic testing. And then the second point I told you that we do have another method called automated ultrasonic testing. This particular method consists of actually you're going to motorize, okay, which will manipulate the probe while tracking the position for the entire period of inspection. Okay, so uh, suppose the building, okay, in building, if you are going to keep because you have fixed your motor, you motorized it and you fix it for continuous monitoring. Okay, so between two gusset plate and the steel beam, so that scenario the building can be easily noted and it can be used to understand whether the building is experiencing any more stresses or not. Okay, so this is also one of the ultrasonic method. As I said, they all use the same kind of physics. And finally, I told you that another third method will be time of flight diffraction. Okay, so it is a technique that is based on ultrasonic waves traveling time. Okay, and the diffraction that are produced by extremities of the discontinuities. Okay, suppose in the beam, if the reinforcement have some failure or some breaking between a discontinuity. Okay, this time of flight diffraction method will help you to understand at what location the discontinuity has happened to what length. Because it consists of a pair of transducers on angled wedges. Okay, so it will have a wedge shaped. So in normal ultrasonic pulse velocity, you will have yes, a simple transducer and receiver, just like your which will be similar to your car tweeters, the speakers, smallest speakers, right? So you're going to keep it in any surfaces or direct transmission. Okay, similarly in time of flight diffraction, it will be kept, you have a wedge like arrangement. In the wedge like arrangement, you have a pair of transducers on these wedges. Okay, so then a pair of probe face each other. Okay, So similarly, same kind of arrangement will be kept in the opposite side as well. Okay, so these are the different types of ultrasonic pulse velocity. I guess you got it right. So in UPV, you have phased array ultrasonic testing, automated ultrasonic testing, and time of flight diffraction. Okay, so these are the different methods comes under UPV. Okay, so in this session, we have seen about rebound hammer and ultrasonic pulse velocity, right? So, with this, stopping today's presentation.